Within mere minutes of Charlie Kirk's assassination, social media was awash with grief, with outrage, and of course calls for unity as well. But it was also full of rumor and lie and political half-truth, things designed, it seemed, to make things worse than they already were. And by the way, before police even knew who the suspect was, people were assigning blame, people were speculating about who the attacker was, what the attacker's motivations were. Democratic Senator Chris Coons and Republican Senator James Lankford yesterday joined Face the Nation together to talk about how internet culture and what's allowed on the internet, possible on the internet, was escalating what they called the divisiveness of this moment.
The idea that he would be killed in such a grotesque and public way has to bring all of us to reflect about how hard it's getting, because the internet is an accelerant. It is driving extremism in our country. It's driving us apart, left and right.
The algorithm pushes people to the most extreme. The algorithm is on social media is always pushing who's the angriest, who's the loudest, who says the craziest thing. That's what gets repeated over and over and over again.
So is this all an inevitable fact, a reality of the digital age, or can something actually be done to stop it? Here to talk about this and more is Professor Laura Edelson, who teaches computer science at Northeastern University and co-directs the Cybersecurity for Democracy project. Professor, thank you very much for being here. One man's misinformation is another man's good faith argument. I don't know any entity out there who I would trust to sort of regulate fact from fiction when it comes to online conversation. I also want to say up top that a lot of the things that we're highlighting online as problematic, you can have a one-on-one conversation with somebody about. It's just something about that online space that strips away people's humanity. It just seems to get worse. So tell me, is there a solution? Can it get better?
First of all, it's great to be with you today. And I think what's so hard about answering that question is we're not talking about one problem. We're talking about three problems all tangled together. First of all, yes, there are people who say really incredibly enraging things online, but the fact of the matter is that really enraging stuff, that rage bait, it gets put in front of people because rage bait is also engaging. And engagement is what social media platforms sell, right? This is the business model. They sell engagement, they sell attention. And so we are in this situation where some of the most hateful, the most vile, the most polarizing content is the stuff that performs really well in this algorithmic speech landscape. So I think that's a huge part of the problem here that we can't ignore.
And there were a lot of guardrails that were put on content, especially during the pandemic, to try to stop information that wasn't correct and stop that from spreading. But then there was really a rollback. Some of the bigger companies like X and Meta started to roll things back more recently. Do you think that the way that bad information spread online so quickly after this assassination is a consequence of that rollback?
Absolutely. This was a conscious choice that several platforms made, most notably, obviously, X, but also Meta's platforms, to make a shift from, having things like fact checking, from having measures in place that would allow, hate speech, violence to be deaccelerated by the algorithm, and to have trust and safety teams that would build systems that would, again, de-amplify polarizing content. They made a conscious choice to move away from that. This was a business decision that they made, and this is the result.
But Professor, how could you really trust a social media company to police things like hate speech or misinformation when it's really hard, actually, to make these determinations? I mean, there's an op-ed in the Times today from a conservative college student writing about how the left views speech as violence, and he makes good faith arguments that align with his worldview and his faith, and they call him a xenophobe. They say he hates LGBTQ people. So this is what I mean by, one person's hate speech or speech is violence is another person's no, actually, this is just where I come from and what's in my heart, and I don't mean anyone harm, it's just my argument.
Right. And I think this is where we kind of need to disentangle the content from the platform design, because you have to remember, you are not seeing this on every platform. And this isn't because people don't post an incredibly diverse range of views to every platform, from X to Reddit to Pinterest. But there is a reason that what is in your feed on X is very different than what is on your feed on Pinterest. And it's not because people aren't posting. Again, the same range of stuff on both of those platforms, but those platforms choose to amplify different things. And so X really prioritizes engagement. So they will put in front of you, a lot of things that some of which you will violently agree with and some of which will make you violently angry. That's the algorithm design. That is how it is built. Instagram has a slightly different design, but it is similarly an engagement-focused algorithm. But not every platform is like this. And this isn't about what speech people are putting out in the world. It's about what the different algorithms choose to amplify. And to be really clear, platform designers have the absolute right to make those choices. And I'm not saying that if someone like Elon Musk wants to make a platform that amplifies the most extreme, most polarizing voices, that he doesn't have an absolute right to do that. What I'm saying is that what you are seeing on platforms is, yes, it is a result of the speech people put out in the world, but it's also a result of the speech, the algorithm that those platform designers, choose to make, what those algorithms choose to amplify.
Yeah. Professor, I think that's a good point. It's a reminder. There used to be an old saying in the news business in the 80s and 90s, if it bleeds, it leads. And now there's like an algorithm version when it comes to conflict and things that are emotionally powerful but not necessarily accurate. It drives engagement. We're wired to follow it. So thank you for kicking off this discussion with us. We really appreciate it, Professor.
Happy to be with you. Thanks.